Can you see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Excellent. Right, so thank you for coming to this webinar. The topic there, getting parents on board, and why your messages aren't reaching kids. So in today's webinar, we're going to kind of unpack that topic. I'm sure we've all experienced it, either as a parent or as a teacher. So throughout the webinar, hopefully by the end of it, you'll have some solutions on making sure that there is no blockage in the communication flow. Let me just, before we start, I want to run through a couple of what's it called, housekeeping. So just so you know, this webinar is being recorded, and we might be using that for LEAPED training and marketing purposes. We're going to upload it onto YouTube, and it may include conversations in the breakout rooms, but maybe not. I think we've decided that it doesn't really work when we edit the breakout room, so we probably won't do that. And if you do not wish to be recorded, please switch off your video. Just want to talk about some norms as well. So the chat box is there for questions, comments, and suggestions. And you can even send me little motivation, yay, well done, that's a good point. I'd really like that, because it kind of feels lonely here talking to a computer screen. So any kind of feedback that I get from you is much appreciated. You're all on mute as default. If you want to speak, you can unmute yourself. I'm happy to have like two-way conversations as well at relevant points. And there's a nice little phrase I came up with called a technical calibration pause. Basically, that means if I get lost and stuck with all the technology, I am actually just doing technical stuff. So you can give me a bit of leeway on that. Hopefully nothing will go wrong, so we might not need to use the technical calibration pause. Okay, a bit about me. So this is me, Gary Husler. I'm a program design and development specialist, and more recently looking at partnerships and proposals as well for LEAPED. Been working for LEAPED for just over 2 years. I've written quite a few modules on parent engagement, including a PIBG module, stakeholder engagement module, and also looking at some new products that are specifically for parent engagement. One of the main reasons my interest is in that is because I know that parents play such a key role in their child's education. So, you know, as much as we can work with them, that's always going to benefit the child a lot more. I'm also very much interested in community building, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the parent engagement. I consider myself an adult learning specialist. I've read loads of different theories and approaches to what works in CPD, what works in adult learning. I have a keen interest in behavioral psychology that kind of stems from, actually I won't bore you with the details, but it stems from my interest in investing, and investing is very much about behavioral psychology. I'm interested in people's habits and how we can influence people through their habits, and how we can create lasting and meaningful change. And hopefully you'll see elements of all of this throughout the webinar. So I'm not going to speak the whole time. What I'm going to do is send you off into some breakout rooms. And what I want you to do when you're in your breakout rooms is talk to the people there, introduce yourself, obviously, what's your name and what's your school. And I want you to talk about the last thing you watched on Netflix, and would you recommend it? Because I know we're all Netflix addicts right now. Let me just come back.
Hi.
So any Netflix recommendations from anyone? Honestly, that's actually the only purpose.
Not for me, because I've never used Netflix, never watched it.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, well, that's foiled my whole webinar. That's the only reason I wanted to do this webinar, to get Netflix recommendations.
Well, we might as well all go home now.
Oh, okay, right, I'll end it now. Thanks anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I think everyone's back here. Okay, so if you do have Netflix recommendations, I would honestly welcome them in the chat box. If anything interesting came up, please share with me. And I'm just going to put you all on mute again. Okay. So this is how we usually teach. Obviously, the teacher here, person on the left, speaks directly at the students in the classroom, and the students get the idea, and hopefully learning takes place. Please bear with me here. I kind of got a bit excited with these slides. I was indulging myself. And now we've got the new norm where we have the teacher there going to the parent, who quite often inadvertently blocks the communication, blocks the messages, and blocks the learning. It's not quite as simple as it used to be. And I put a little grey arrow there as well, because the messages we give through the parents are often not the messages that we intended to give in the first place, or the way that we would teach it, because parents aren't teachers, as we know. So the kids get an idea, but we don't know what idea it is. So obviously the communication flow is a lot more stretched and not completely, but a lot more out of our control. So what? So why is this even an issue? Why should we even be worried about this? Is it something that is our responsibility as teachers, or is it the parents' responsibility? Obviously, that extra layer of communication can affect the learning. Some kids are not getting the complete message, but why should we care about that? Why should we be worried about it? This is where I got a bit excited with the slides, by the way, with these images. So this struggling person is one of my assumptions is a lot of the students who are not accessing online materials, there may be a correlation between those students at school who are also not keeping up as well as they could be with the curriculum. This is not proven, of course. I just have an idea that parent engagement is really, really important in normal learning, and even more so now. So I think you probably may have experienced it yourselves. The kids who generally do perform well, they do all their homework in normal times, they kind of have parents who are quite switched on with what's happening, and they push the kids. So they're probably not the ones we're so worried about. And actually, they're the ones right now who are probably getting the support they need from their parents. Of course, this is going to create a wider gap when we get back to the schools. So we've got our pre-existing baseline of students without engaged parents who may be struggling, and then that's going to become even wider when we get back. We'll have these students who will maybe fade away. That's my self-indulgent part. They fade away. But they, of course, they won't fade away, but they will be struggling more and more to keep up. There's lots of news stories around the world, and I've got a poll for you in a second to see what your experiences are. But apparently more than half of students are not tuning into the online classes or any kind of learning. That's quite a big proportion, 50% of our students. Many students stay logged out. And again, it says 50% here. This one's from the Star, so this is a local newspaper. And here, less than 50%. So I want to ask you, what is your experience of engagement levels? Does it match this, or is it higher or lower? So I've given you a poll now. You should see that pop up on your screen. If you can just give me some feedback. Okay, so we've got quite a few above 80%. Oh, we've got most falling in below 60%. 40 to 60%, that seems about right. That seems to match with what the media is saying. Yep, that's everyone. So so let's see. Just do a bit of quick maths. About 70% of you said that less than 60% of your students are actively engaged in online learning. So if we're talking about primary kids, obviously that has a large part to do with parents. Secondary kids, maybe not so much. Maybe it could be the parents as well, not setting routines, not following up and stuff like that. But for primary kids, this is quite significant. Share the results with you. I didn't even need to do that quick calculation in my head. You can see it for yourselves. So our collective experience matches what is happening in the wider world. What I want to ask you first, though, is what also are you actually currently doing right now? There's a wide range of remote learning options that we can do. Some people are doing synchronous classes where they get everyone in the same room on a Zoom call like this, and they do lessons. I know that's happening in my daughter's school. Some teachers are sending WhatsApp messages or communicating through email. I'd like to know what you guys are doing. So I have another quick poll, and this is for me as well, so that I can gauge how to go with the rest of the webinar. So there's another poll that's come up there. So over 50% of you are using a mixture of more than one of the above. Interestingly, no one's using a learning management system. Like, for example, Schoology or Blackboard, or even, I guess, Google Classroom is a learning management system as well. But maybe you are with a mixture of more than one of the above. Let me share that with you. Okay, so you can see that most of you are using more than one channel, which is perfect for trying to engage parents. But now we need to try and understand what is the actual blockage here, though. Why is it not getting through to the kids? So I'll tell you about my experience as a parent. So I've got two kids. I've got Molly and Frank. Molly is 6, Frank is 4. That's them in the picture there. They're getting prepared to support the lockdown. This was a couple of weeks ago. They wanted to go on the streets and help the army. That was their idea. That may be as a result of my liberal parenting, I'm not sure. But what I've found is there's so much to juggle. I'm sure you've heard this so many times before. And it's just been really, really hard. And all I've been wanting from the schools, they're in different schools. One of them's in kindergarten, Frank, and Molly's in year 1. I just want things to be simple and laid out, clearly communicated, and I want all teachers to make my life easy. It's very selfish of me. I'm a teacher as well. I should be putting the work in to translate the messages from the schools into some kind of learning experience for my kids. But I'm one of the fortunate few who has an education background. Vast majority of parents don't. So obviously there's a lot that's getting lost. I'm going to show you some examples of the kinds of messages I get for both the kids, and we'll unpack them and we'll look at why they weren't effective. Why didn't they work? Why didn't they do the desired? Why didn't they have the desired effect to get me to translate the learning to the kids? So let's start with Frank. That's him with a nappy on his head. He's a strange child. Not sure where he gets it from. No, I won't say that. I was going to say my wife, but she might see this later. This is a message I got from Frank's kindergarten. Okay, so you can see it's, first of all, it's a lot of information, isn't it? Now imagine I've got there's 3 WhatsApp groups for my kids, 2 of them for Frank, 1 of them for Molly. And these are 2-way WhatsApp groups. The main form of teaching for Frank is through WhatsApp. That's the kindergarten. And I would say since lockdown, I've probably received well over 1,000 messages in those WhatsApp groups. So I am completely incapable of anchoring on to any actual real communication. It's just hardly any of the messages are repeated, and I'm missing so many of the important messages. So one of the first things to notice on this one is that it was forwarded. But I didn't know why it was forwarded or what was the context. You know, there was no introduction to this message. What was the purpose of the message? So easy for me to ignore. You can also see that this is a 2-hour Taekwondo class for my 4-year-old son. I think 2 hours is a bit much. I'm not sure what you think. So that's quite off-putting. And you can see the time it was sent, 4:53. That's approximately 37 minutes before the class starts. So I have to drop everything I'm doing, set up a Zoom call, get him in his Taekwondo outfit, get him in front of the Zoom thing, and tell him to stay there and do his Taekwondo. Obviously, that's not going to work. So we need to think about some of these things when we're messaging to parents. Here's another example. Complete the words. I don't know what that means. There weren't messages directly underneath it or directly above it. There was lots of chatter from the parents. So when it says complete the words, I think I was crying out for a bit of context here. So again, easy for me to ignore, which is exactly what I did do. This was Frank's lessons for today. He hasn't done them yet, and he probably won't be doing them till tomorrow when I've got time to decipher all of this information. Frank's not a girl, but still, the point is, girls, don't forget to join your gym class. Enjoy yourselves. Honestly, I didn't even know there was a gym class for kindergarten, and they've been in this kindergarten for maybe, Frank's been there for 2 years now. My daughter was there before, so I didn't know they were doing remote Zoom gym classes. I have missed that message in all of this. So another warning here, let's try and keep it within context. Again, look at the time that it was sent, 8 o'clock last night. I don't know how you feel, but I probably get about 1,000 WhatsApp messages a day right now. There's so many of them. And the last thing I want to do is get one at 8 o'clock at night, especially if it's to do with trying to figure out what my son's lessons are supposed to be for the next day. So some points to consider here. Oh, sorry, there's one more. This was a really helpful message, by the way. I like this message. This one is a gentle reminder of a broken down schedule of what happens on a day-by-day basis. Really, really useful. Perfect summary. The only problem was they sent this in week 5 of the lockdown. So what I read when I saw that was, oh, he was supposed to be doing these online courses. I had completely missed all of that within all of the WhatsApp channels. But when I saw this, now I know what I need to do, and now I'm making sure that he does he's there at the necessary times. But it took this very simple structured message to click into my head. So just summaries from here. We need clear titles and subjects with realistic timings. So you notice on the first one, you have to really dig deep to find out that that's about Taekwondo class. Let's just put it at the top, make it very simple. Make the timings realistic. Let's adjust our expectations as well. We can't really think that Frank's going to do a 2-hour Taekwondo class. Let's introduce forwarded messages if we're using WhatsApp. Think about what the best time to message is. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. in the chat box, what do you think is the best time to message parents if you're using WhatsApp or Telegram? Is it at night? Is it during the day? When do you get the most response? Let's be specific with our references. So don't just say, join your gym class. I mean, I don't know when it is. I don't know what is expected of me. Do I have to go on Zoom? Where's the invite? And also, summaries are good. This summary here really helped me to understand what was happening. So that's Frank. Now I'm going to show you Molly. This is Molly. That was at Halloween last year. So Molly is using a learning management system called Schoology. I'm not sure if you've seen it before. So I'm going to be like perfectly honest here. It took me probably 3 weeks to even get the password and the username, and not because I'm a bad parent, but because there's so much going on. And when I finally got in here and I saw this, I'm like, oh my goodness gracious me, there's so much there. It was just overwhelming at that time, especially when we see things like this upcoming, all of these things upcoming on the same day, and I've got to do all of that in one day. That seems to me, the message that I'm receiving there is, you're not doing stuff. Well, obviously I wasn't, and all of this stuff needs to be done. So that again makes me feel very overwhelmed. Other than that though, once I got used to Schoology, I actually find it quite useful, but the initial barrier to getting into it and understanding it cannot be ignored. All parents will feel that, even with something as simple as Google Classroom. It is unusual and it's overwhelming. That's why we need to be very, very clear with our messaging, and we need to support teachers in understanding how to use these things. Show you something else. So this is a summary of a synchronous lesson that my daughter had. So we're talking, remember, she's year 1, she can only just read. She's quite a good reader, but she's not great. So this is addressed to her. Dear children, multiple choice questions, point form questions, subjective questions, opinion questions. Okay, just last week she was learning WH questions, who and what. And now we've gone to subjective questions and opinion questions. So let's have a bit of consideration for what the children actually know, and also what the parents know as well. Most parents might not be comfortable with teaching what a point form, I don't know, what is a point form question? If you know what a point form question is, please put it in the chat box, because I'm still a little bit confused. So let's make it very clear for the parents and for the children what it is. Let's use child language. Also with this thing, what am I actually supposed to do with this? Do I read it? Do I do an activity with it? Do I talk to my daughter about it? Do I ask her to give examples using it? Okay, again, luckily I have an education background, so I would do the heavy lifting here to make this into something that can be taught and learned. But the vast majority of parents won't. They'll just read it with the kids, and they won't know why they're reading it with the kids. There won't be an outcome. So just be mindful of that as well. Here we have a request to practice handwriting. Complete Unit 1 at school, page 13. Okay, but why though is what I was asking. Maybe I'm being a bit critical because of my education background. How do I make this come to life for Molly, other than getting her to sit down with her book, open to page 13, and just practice her handwriting? Could it be personalized for her a bit? Could it be contextualized to her actual experience right now? That would certainly make it easier for me as a parent to translate what the learning is for her. For example, Molly, write down something that you did today during COVID, what your feelings are, and make sure you practice your handwriting at the same time. Just small things, but they will make a difference to parents. Another one here, open your Science Super Skills exercise book to pages 49 and 50. It's okay, I understand that we have textbooks, but again, I mean, we could make this a bit more personalized to Molly. This is about animals and how they protect themselves from enemies. There's so many things I can think of off the top of my head to make that come to life for Molly. And I would be doing that heavy lifting as a parent. Maybe the teacher should support me to do that a bit more. Okay, so just a summary, be clear about what you want to happen as a result of your message. What do you want the parent to do? What do you want the child to do? And even explaining why is a good one as well. Be conscious of overwhelming parents and kids. I'm talking about myself here. Be conscious of overwhelming me. Give a reason why you want the kids to do something, and try as much as you can to personalize the messages and activities. These are all barriers that are getting in the way of the messages getting to the kids. Because remember, it has to go through that filter of me as the parent first. And if I can't see the use of it, or I don't know how to do it, it's not going to get to the kids. This is from my daughter's school as well, just to confirm it matches with what your experience is. Some as low as 60% of the classes are actually doing the stuff that they're asked to do. Okay, so I've got 3 questions for you to discuss in a breakout room. So why are they not doing the work from your experience? What can we do about it? Is it even our responsibility? When you come back, I'll show you what I think is a good way of structuring communication and tasks. Again. Okay, see you in a bit. I will put the questions in the top of the chat box in your breakout room. Hi guys.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. So why are our students not doing the work, or some students?
Some students, it's not all. I could say, 60 to 70%
Why do you think
doing.
it is?
In my opinion, these are the students who are naturally not serious in their studies, even when they were in school on a normal day. So it continues when they're at home as well.
Right, okay. Anyone have a similar experience or opinion? Okay. Is there anything that we can do then to make sure that we reach these kids?
On my side, in our school, we keep sending the parents reminders, gentle reminders, to let them know that we have posted this work, and this particular work is due, and we are yet to hear from your kids. That's what we do, because the kids definitely have shown us that they're not interested to return the work. So we try to reach them through the parents.
So it's personalized messages to the parents?
Yes, that's definitely. We give them a call, yeah.
And what's the response to that? Is it, do they tend to do more work afterwards?
Not so much, but yes, there has been replies. There has been work submitted.
That's good. Do you think it's even our responsibility as teachers?
In my opinion, I would say yes. Partly it is our personal responsibility, but at this point of time, it is definitely it will be definitely helpful if the parents can, do their part. But the most we can do is just send them reminders. There's nothing much we can do.
What do you
That's-
think is stopping the parents from kind of pushing the message on?
I think it's their own work. They're also working from home. See, I am a teacher, and I have my own 2 kids going to the same school. So when I'm busy with my students, with my classes, and I'm also a head helping out the teachers myself. So sometimes I do tend to neglect my kids, and kids being kids, they tend to overlook their own work and all that when they see that mommy is busy.
Yeah.
So so it is the parents being busy.
How old are your kids?
Mine are 9 and 11.
Oh, right. So
One,
they should be kind of helping to make their own routine, but I understand totally how they can slip through. They've always got so many excuses, haven't they, for not doing it?
Definitely.
Did anyone else have any opinions?
Yeah. I'm Ravi here.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi. Actually, the tools, they are what they call sharing their computers. It's a big problem for them because like my house, I got 4 kids. 4 of them, they have to share 2 computers, including myself. So it takes time also because they have a Google Classroom and the teachers are running the class. Okay, at the same time, I got a school meeting. You see, it's make harsh time for me to handle the case. Sometimes they overlook the work also.
So what would you want your kids' school to do to help you overcome that problem?
Normally, the timetable that they're giving, right? Okay, must be a bit flexible. One. Number 2, just post the what you call exercises. Let the kids do according to their time. Okay, then they pass it to the teacher. Let the teacher check.
I like that approach. I like a mix of synchronous and asynchronous. So live classes, and then the option to, if you can't make it because there's no device, then get it recorded, and then they can watch it later when it's got their own time. I think that's a good approach.
Correct.
And are you doing that as well, Ravi? That kind of...
Yeah. I'm doing that. So I told my student, my kids also, okay, don't worry. Okay, Appa understand that. Okay. So never mind. When you got time, you do. Okay. You cannot miss. You tell the teacher, sorry. Okay, I cannot do. Later, I'll copy from my friend or who else can help them. Okay, then send it to you, teacher. Okay. That's the way, lah.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, it's like give and take policy. What to do?
We have to be very flexible, don't we? In getting the parents engaged, and then also the students as well. Lucky for me, my son's kindergarten doesn't expect us to do online live lessons. Once a week they have a meetup, and that's good. But that's really useful for me because then I can just do it at the weekends.
Okay.
I don't feel guilty.
But my kid is like they are going for Form 4, Form 5, and Form 3. So one is in a private college. So it's hassle for me also.
Right. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. I'm gonna mute you all again.
Thank you, Gary.
I hope you had a nice discussion.
Very useful.
If you can put any of your summaries in the chat box, that would be great, and we can have a look at those.
Okay, Gary.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through a couple more solutions and some suggestions for you. Okay. So, I'm not sure if you have ever seen this before. This is a way of making sure that your messages can get through to parents. So this is a principle called EAST, E-A-S-T. So the first consideration is make it easy for the parents. If there's any excuse for the parents to not do things because it's a bit difficult, believe me, that's what will happen. Especially if these parents are not tiger parents as it is. So we need to make the messages simple, and we need to break down complex goals. Number 3 there is reduce friction cost. I mean, have you ever tried to buy something online and there's so many steps and stages and do this and click on that, and then you get to it and you're like, you know what, I can't be bothered. That's what friction costs are. And parents feel the same with the messages that we give them to try and get the students to learn. So be conscious of that. Make it simple, break it down, and reduce the friction cost. Also, make it attractive as well. You know, we can get pages and pages of dry, formal instructions, and it's kind of boring, to be honest. And we know we've got to do it because we've got a duty to support our child's education, but we could try and make it a bit more fun. We can personalize the messages, and we can be creative. Put a bit of good humor into it. Doesn't have to be so formal. You know, these are unprecedented times. Try and make it social as well. So statistics to show that the other parents are engaging in learning is a really strong motivator, because people don't want to miss out. They don't want to feel like they're the only one who's not doing it. So, for example, if you've got 70% of the students in your class who are engaging in the learning, call it out in the next message. Say thank you to the 70% of you who are doing all the lessons. It's not to make the parent feel guilty, but it's to encourage them to join the majority. And that's a powerful message, and it's very hard to kind of ignore. If we feel that everyone else who's similar to us is doing something, we will also want to do it. Try and create online groups that show positive behaviors. That's, again, in your WhatsApp, you can call out those statistics. Number 3 there, commitment to others. I'll show you an example of that a little bit later. But it's as easy as listing down, making a list of students who want to join an activity, for example. I'll show you what I mean later. Collaborative learning as well. We can use all the Google tools to make the students learn together. And also T is timely. Make sure you communicate at the right time for parents, not just for you. I know maybe I'm a teacher, I'm doing my lesson planning at 10 o'clock at night. That's probably not the best time to message or put things onto the Schoology or onto the Google Classroom. Have a conversation with the parents who are not engaging. When is the best time for me to message you? Try and enter into a negotiation. If they say to you, it's at 5 o'clock, they have given you the time that they want it to come, and they will also feel certain amount of obligation because they've committed to that time. So ask them when is the best time. Also, it's good to demonstrate the immediate impact of the learning through feedback. So don't forget the power of feedback as well to parents. Thank you for getting Frank to come to Taekwondo. He was really awesome. That will encourage me to get him there more. Let me give you some examples of that. Do you remember this message from earlier? This is the Taekwondo one. So we're going to apply East. Make it easy, make it attractive, make it social, make it timely. This was my example of how this message could have been written. Taekwondo, a clear title at the top. Give your kids the chance to hang out with their friends on Zoom while doing Taekwondo. Last week, we had 8 of your 11 classmates. Now, if I'm a parent and I see that, I'm like, oh no, Frank is one of the only ones who's not going. I will guarantee that I get him to the next session. 45 minutes, much more manageable for a 4-year-old, not 2 hours. Give them an exact time, 6 to 6:45, and then empathize. We know you're busy during the day, so that's why we're doing it at night. Explain the rationale. Tomorrow, that's in the very near future. It's not like next week, so that's the timely part. Personalize. Who? Frank, we need you. Now, if I receive a message like that, it's really difficult for me to ignore. I'll kind of move heaven and earth to make sure that Frank gets there for that. And then a very helpful, nice little thing at the end to make it easy. Mummy and Daddy, we've sent a calendar invite to your email address. Please accept and let Microsoft remind you. Take the burden off the parents, show empathy, and make it easy for them to succeed. Another thing you can do, like I'm saying about the commitment just before, I receive this message actually from my son's group, not about Taekwondo, about something else. You're going to have about 50% of parents who are completely switched on. So you put only 10 spaces, That's like the scarcity. It makes me feel like I've got to get there quick. And then parents have to list their children's name. So the power that that message has on me, who my natural default is to not reply, is, oh, I have to put Frank's name on there. I don't want him to be left out. It's really, and then once I've written his name there, I've publicly committed to getting Frank there. It's really hard for me to not make sure he's there then. Some little tricks using East. And this is a very flexible model. All you need to do is just think about it. Is it easy? Is it attractive? Is it social? And is it timely? Okay, we're at 50 minutes. I'm quite tempted to skip this part and show you one more thing. And then I will share with you these models afterwards in an email. This is one more very useful way of thinking about how to get parents to do stuff. If you read at the top, it says trigger. So, and you look in the chart here, we've got triggers fail here and triggers succeed here. A trigger is a prompt. That's a WhatsApp message, an email, a Telegram message, a phone call, anything that gets into the parent's brain space. So looking at the different axes here, we've got motivation and we've got ability. So motivation is quite simply, is the parent motivated to do this behavior that you want them to do? And on the bottom one, we've got ability. Can they actually do it? I'm going to give you a few examples from my experience. So learning a new learning management system. So do we think that I've got the motivation? Not really. I've got so many things going on. Is it easy for me to do? No, it's not really easy for me to do. So that falls there. And as you can see, there's an action line that falls underneath the action line. So the chances of me actually doing that are actually quite slim. Whereas we've got log into the new learning management system, Quite easy to do. I've got motivation to do it. I'm just logging in. So that falls above the action line. The chances of me doing that is much higher. So this is the kind of thing that we want to get into our parents. We want to try and design our communications so that it feels easy to do and that it encourages the motivation that they already have for their child's learning. Scroll through hundreds of messages to find instructions. Do I want to do that? I really don't want to do that. Low motivation. You could say it's easy to do. I just have to scroll. But it's, again, probably falling underneath the action line. Chances are I won't do it. Become a parent and then overnight become a teacher. That's what we're expecting most parents to do. Is that hard to do? Yeah, it's very hard to do. Do I have motivation to become a teacher if I'm not normally a teacher? No. So what's the chances of that happening? Pretty slim. We need to somehow get this in above the action line. One last thing, teach Mandarin if you have never spoken a word of Mandarin. That's what was asked of me to do. Okay, I have a little bit of motivation for that, but I don't have the ability. So the chances of Molly learning Mandarin from me, very, very slim. Let me show you some examples of how we can make them into manageable communication. So learning a new learning management system. We know that's hard, and as we saw, I might have motivation, but it's hard for me to do, so the chances are I won't do it. But I could break that down. I can make it more simple. Remember the East model? Log into the learning management system. Yeah, I can do that. Remember, that's above the action line. That's the first step in getting the parents to be engaged in the child's learning. If they're not even logging into the LMS, how can we expect them to teach the children? A nice message you could send. Dear parents, today we'd like you to simply log on to the learning management system. Find your username, very clear cut what the username is. Find the password, tells them exactly what to search for in their emails. Enter the username and password. Once you're in, click on the message and send me a hi. That's it. That's all I want the parents to do. That if they do that, I've succeeded in getting them to engage on one level. This is a good platform from which I can build. Another, the final example before I open it up to questions. Teach Mandarin. So we know I don't speak Mandarin. So how can I do that? We know that I might have some motivation, but it's hard for me to do. The teachers could ask the children to teach me something in Mandarin. That would work. Easy for me to do. I can get that's easy to do, high motivation. I could get a message like this from the teachers. Dear parents, most of you do not speak Mandarin, but do not worry, your child can still make progress in Mandarin. Let's make it easy. Ask your child to teach you one thing in Mandarin. Okay, great. The onus is not on me, on the parent. It's how hard is it for me to say, Molly, teach me something in Mandarin? Very easy. Ask your child to show you which page from their textbook they reached before MCO. Great, we're opening the textbook. We're engaging with the Mandarin. Now, all of a sudden, it doesn't feel so scary to me. Thanks, parents. Together, we can support your child. Okay, so I know I'm going really quick because I'm conscious of time. And I will share this information with you afterwards in a follow-up email. But just in summary, parents need our support. They need us to make it easy. We need to make communication and learning tasks that are easy, attractive, social, and timely. If we do this, this will increase engagement for the parents who are currently not engaging. We need to design communication and tasks that are motivating for parents and that they have the ability to do. And then we need to give them simple messages designed around the behavior we want them to do. Break it down, make it simple. There's a Malay saying, isn't there? Something like, sikit lama jadi bukit, or something like that. Make it really, really easy, step by step. Take this as an opportunity to build your parent community. Make them your #1 fans. You'll never have an opportunity like this again, to show the parents in your sphere of influence how thoughtful and considerate you are for their kids. Let's use this opportunity as much as we can. Okay, I'm going to I'm going to drop the feedback link into the chat box here, and I'm going to open the floor to some questions. Just bear with me 1 second. You know what? I haven't even looked at the chat box this whole time. Hayley, you've been monitoring the chat box. Was anything interesting that came up? Hayley, are you still there?
I am still there. I was muted and I was talking and then it was muted. I'm sorry.
Anything that came up that was of interest in the chat box?
I think the chat box has been really interesting today because I think there's a lot of stuff around the things that we can't do. And I don't mean that in any criticism at all, but I think at the moment there's a lot of everything's a problem. They don't have textbooks, they don't have this, they don't have, parents are overwhelmed. And I think that I acknowledge that that is absolutely 100% true, but I'm wondering how we can be creative. So I was thinking about this lack of textbooks thing, and I was thinking about Molly's task about the animals. Yeah. So for me, if I wanted to do something around animals, and Sharon's absolutely right, she's written on the chat box that she's got a curriculum to teach, and that's true, but we've got to be creative. So if I've got to teach about dangerous animals, so I would start with my favorite animal, because that's an easy way to get in, and then I might start thinking, get kids to draw me dangerous animals. I don't know, I think, or have a competition about which animal they can think of that's the most dangerous. And then maybe share the pictures that the kids are drawing.
And how do we make that simple for the parents as well? I mean, let's think about it through the EAST and through the behavior motivation model. So if it's simple, like tell your mum and dad what your favorite dangerous animal is, show them a picture from a book you've got. That's really easy for me to read in a text message and say, hey Frank, Molly, go and find a picture. done. Okay, then I feel like I'm doing something, and then we can build on from there.
But I also think that there's room for kids to do, if we can set tasks that parents don't have to supervise, we've got a winner.
Definitely.
So if we can get kids to challenge, everyone loves a competition. Can we challenge them to draw the most dangerous animal they can think of? And then maybe the parents are asked to share the pictures. And then they can, and that's a way of creating a social, and then you can show it and see what other kids have done. In our positive learning environments webinar yesterday, lots of people were talking about creating photo albums for children in one place so that there's a record of work. And I think that maybe that's a way to bring us, I don't know. Can I just
comment on Sabina's observation there? Two different groups of parents. One group who want back-to-back classes, I'm assuming synchronously on Zoom, like normal school, and another group of parents who haven't got enough devices for that. So how can they possibly do it? I know that one of the solutions that Ravi was talking about when we had the breakout room was recording the live classes, and then the students can access the recording later. I think as teachers and as parents, we need to understand that this is completely unusual, and we have to make allowances for people to access the stuff later.
I also think that Zoom exhaustion is genuinely real. I watched a very interesting webinar from Hong Kong, who've been doing this for a lot longer than us, and they are genuinely concerned about the health of kids sitting in front of screens for 6 hours. I'm just going to look for a link now, but the BBC have just written an article. Sitting in front of Zoom is worse than real life school. It's different, and it's not healthy. And I'm really nervous about having kids sitting in front of Zoom. I'm nervous about myself sitting in front of Zoom for hours. So I don't know.
You know what's going to happen as soon as this finishes this webinar? I'm going to go like this. Because it's exhausting. I'm just going to sink back into my chair because this is the 6th Zoom meeting I've had in one day. Yeah, so I mean, if Molly's school insisted that Molly sit back to back to back to back, I would not be happy. I would be trying to influence them to think of different solutions. She's only 6, and it's really unhealthy to sit in front of a screen for that long. Okay, I'm going to have to, does anyone have any questions, anything that they want to ask me or discuss? As I mentioned, I will share a link to the EAST model and the FOG behavior model in the follow-up email. Meanwhile, if you could fill in that feedback, that would be great, so that we can continue to make our webinars better, maybe more engaging, I don't know, or more interactive, however you feel. All feedback is very welcome. Any questions?
There was just a comment about making a portfolio in the thing from Sharon, and I think portfolios are really key for this, because at the moment we're looking at this as really piecemeal. It's just lots and lots of little bits and pieces, so we're not seeing any progress. And I'm wondering if there's any way for us to start thinking about how we can store the little victories, maybe in a particular folder on your phone, especially for kids' work, or something around that, so that we can actually see some progress, because otherwise we feel like we're just fighting a battle every day, I think.
Let's remember though, we need to make it easy for the parents. Don't continue to give them new things that they have to learn, because I mean, this is what, week 5 of MCO, and only now do I feel like I'm on top of it. Now if Molly's school said to me, right, now you've got to collect everything she's done in an online portfolio, I'd be like, what? I feel like I've only just got on top of it. Give me a break. If you're going to do that, break down the steps, make it simple, stretch it over time, and explain it very, very simply. Let's make it easy for parents.
See, I'm an example of one of those over-enthusiastic teachers who are just sending WhatsApps at 10 o'clock at night. So I apologised about that. I think I think there are lots of teachers working really hard and trying their best, but maybe some of those messages have to be moderated a little bit. And I think that's the main message I took away from this, Gary. So thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. See you again hopefully next time.